There is a law older than the Great Wall, older than the Silk Road, older than the dynasties whose names now gather dust in forgotten textbooks. A law that once shaped men so disciplined that empires bent around their character. A law that trained people to stand straight when kingdoms fell, to remain steady when armies trembled, to act with clarity even when the world descended into chaos. This law is not loud. It does not inspire quick dopamine. It does not flatter your feelings or wait for your convenience. The ancients called it Li, ritual discipline, deliberate order, the art of shaping the self until the world can no longer shape you. The Jade Scholar understood it with crystalline certainty. When a man fails to govern himself, everything else, his desires, his fears, his impulses, begins to rule in his place. Li is the antidote to that quiet collapse. He is ordinary, almost painfully ordinary. He wakes not in disaster, but in drift. He rises not with purpose, but with inertia. The morning sunlight enters his room long before his intentions do. His phone becomes his first ritual, not thinking, but scrolling. His mind is sharp enough to understand his potential, but not trained enough to live it. His life is a museum of unfinished beginnings, a journal that only survived 3 entries, a language app abandoned after a week, a dumbbell sitting in the corner like an accusation, a to-do list that looks identical every single day. He is not weak, he is leaking. Every goal loses force through micro-holes, a notification, a moment of boredom, a passing temptation, a random emotion that drifts in and hijacks the entire day. He thinks he needs passion. He thinks he needs motivation. He thinks he needs the right time or a fresh start. But the ancient mind saw the truth with brutal clarity. His suffering comes not from lack of ability, but lack of architecture. A building without structure collapses under its own weight. A life without order collapses under its own moods. This is where his awakening begins, realizing that he is not fighting laziness. He is fighting internal disorganization. The scholar warriors of ancient China were raised in a world that believed chaos was the natural state of the universe. To survive it, you didn't chase motivation. You crafted a stable internal cosmos. This is Li. To outsiders, Li looked like politeness, ceremony, ritual. But to those who practiced it, Wei was a weapon sharpened across decades. It was the art of aligning your external environment with your internal values, a way of turning mundane actions into anchors for your identity. Imagine the Jade Scholar waking before dawn, not because he feels like it, not because he is excited, but because the ritual protects him from becoming the kind of man who wakes late. When he bows before his elders, it is not obedience, it is the daily training of humility. When he writes his characters with care, it is not handwriting, it is the cultivation of precision. When he controls his speech, it is not silence, it is sovereignty. Li is discipline externalized into motion. Modern minds chase inspiration. Confucian minds generate it through repetition. The modern worldview says, I'll be disciplined once I feel aligned. The Confucian worldview says, you feel aligned because you have been disciplined. This is where the ancient system exposes our weakness. We are addicted to feelings. They were devoted to rhythm. The moment the drifting man tries to regain order, the real enemy awakens. Not laziness, not weakness, but biological inertia. The body resists new patterns because unpredictability threatens survival. The brain prefers habits, even self-destructive ones, because they require less energy. So the internal war begins. The mind becomes a battlefield between two selves, the self that sees the mountain and the self that fears the climb. You try to wake early, and your body negotiates. You try to work deeply, and distractions ambush you. You try to stay consistent, and your emotions stage a rebellion. Ancient philosophers understood this long before neuroscience did. They called it Xin-Ji-Zhan, the war of the heart-mind. If you lose this war, life becomes a sequence of reactions. You react to your hunger. You react to your boredom. You react to whatever stimulus reaches you first. This reactive existence fractures identity. A person without Li becomes a person without center. The Jade Scholar believed that structure is the rope that pulls you out of psychological fragmentation. One ritual at a time, one repetition at a time, one uncomfortable act of self-governance at a time. The war is unavoidable, but it is winnable. Modern culture worships freedom, but Confucius understood that absolute freedom without self-governance always ends in slavery to impulse. Rules are not chains. Rules are guardrails. The Jade Scholar lived by a principle sharper than a sword. Do not wait for clarity. Create clarity through ordered action. He didn't rely on morning motivation. He relied on systems, routines so ingrained that even on his worst days, they carried him like a river. This is the secret the modern world rejects. Discipline is not a daily decision. Discipline is a pre-made contract. You don't choose discipline each morning. You choose it once, deeply, and the ritual chooses for you afterward. Most people fail not because the path is hard, but because they insist on renegotiating their commitments every sunrise. The path of Li is simple. Decide who you must be. Choose the rituals that align with that identity. Submit to the rhythm rather than your emotions. Identity is formed not by passion, but by consistency. Water wears down mountains because it never stops. It doesn't rush. It doesn't pause. It simply continues. The ancients built their discipline the same way. Modern psychology now confirms what sages knew intuitively. Consistency wires the nervous system. Predictable routines reduce anxiety. Repetition strengthens willpower. Identity forms only through uninterrupted patterns. A single gap weakens the thread. A small break creates a psychological permission slip for future breaks. This is why the Jade Scholar guarded his rituals like a warrior guarding a fortress. He knew that every gap widened the door for chaos. His life might seem rigid from the outside, but inside he moved with extraordinary freedom. Freedom from hesitation, freedom from confusion, freedom from the endless internal noise that torments the disordered. Structure does not imprison you. It frees the part of you that wants to rise. Confucian discipline becomes terrifyingly powerful when applied proactively. Most people solve problems after they explode. The ancient sages solved them before they formed. They designed behavior in advance, how they would respond to anger, what they would do under pressure, how they would behave when temptation appeared, what their priorities were regardless of mood. This wasn't rigidity. It was psychological engineering. A pre-solved life eliminates emotional distortion. It removes negotiation from moments of weakness. It stabilizes behavior under stress. The Jade Scholar treated his future self the way a general treats a battlefield, Every move planned, every outcome anticipated, every reaction rehearsed. The result is astonishing. Calm under pressure, clarity in chaos, consistency through storms. Your life becomes a river that cannot be diverted because its course was carved long before the flood. Transformation does not arrive with dramatic music. It arrives quietly, like dawn light creeping across the floor. The drifting man's life begins to harden into shape. He wakes before chaos wakes him. His space becomes a temple of order rather than a mirror of his confusion. His speech becomes intentional. His work becomes deep. His rest becomes guiltless. The rituals become invisible. They dissolve into his identity. This is what Confucians call the birth of the Junzi, the cultivated person, the one whose inner order is so strong that no external mess can break it. He no longer chases motivation. He radiates presence. He no longer negotiates with himself. He speaks and the body obeys. This is not productivity, not self-help, not life hacks. This is sovereignty, the death of the impulsive self, the rise of the disciplined self. When order becomes identity, you stop asking, how do I stay disciplined? And begin to ask, what else am I capable of building? If this teaching resonates with you, consider walking further into the world of the Jade Scholar. Here, ancient Chinese wisdom becomes modern inner power, where Taoist stillness meets Confucian order, and your life becomes something crafted, not something reacted to.